Hello and welcome back, all of you avid consumers of Pax Dei and Pax Dei related content. I'm Altari the Professional Gamer, and this is another episode of the PAX Friday Review, the show where we talk about all of the fun, interesting, new, and exciting information that has dropped for Pax Dei over the last week. This week, we got some confirmation over the rules that are going around for the plot cleanup that is going to be happening sometime after August 19th. And then we also got some really cool updates talking about what is to come and what we can expect in the near term, as well as maybe a little bit further out, with a confirmation of when we can expect the next big content update as well. So we're going to cover all of that and a little bit more in today's episode of the PAX Friday Review. As always, if you do end up enjoying this content, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe so that you can get notified whenever we come out with new PAX Dei related content for all of you, and then share this video with any of your friends who might be interested in learning more or staying up to date with PAX Dei. So let's go ahead and head over to the official Discord to talk about some of the information that is dropped this week. I'll see you over there. All right, and here we are at the PAX Dei official Discord, and we have two things that are extremely important that came out this week. Like I mentioned, the first one being the rules for what is going to qualify a plot as being something that can be removed or cleaned up, as it were, was clarified for us earlier in the week. And we actually came out with a video, I think either yesterday or the day before that, outlining everything, as well as some of my thoughts. I'll talk about a little bit more thoughts that I have on that at the end of this video, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But first and foremost, we do have the status update on game content. So a couple of interesting things as there were to note. Obviously, we'll get to all of these down here, which are some really, really exciting things. But before all of that, on August 13th, there's going to be a smaller patch that's coming out. Specifically, one of the highlights and something that I know a lot of us have really been begging for is signs are no longer going to be examinable. That seems like a little bit of a, for lack of a better term, engineering oversight there, where the signs were getting in the way of people being able to actually open up the containers that they were signing for. And then also there's a couple of issues with some fixes for various skills, as well as a potential exploit where bears would become unresponsive when they run into water, and then some corpse spawn issues where you can't recover your body because your corpse goes into outer space and you can no longer retrieve it or get the body even if you do the summon corpse command as well. So that's really great that we have all of that. There is a couple of other bugs that I think they're still working on. A couple of players I know that I enjoy the game with have started noticing a issue where for the more populated home valleys, they're having an issue actually loading into the game. There's like a freeze that happens after you get past the loading screen because it seems like all the assets are coming in. And when some players are making it to that freeze point, they either get kicked back to character select or the whole game just closes out for them, which would indicate a crash. Hopefully that's something that Mainframe has on their radar and is working on fixing. They haven't mentioned it on any official channels yet, but I know that it is only going to become a bigger and bigger issue as more home valleys become more heavily saturated, as players are kind of filling them out still, and more building pieces are getting placed there. So that's going to be a big one. Now let's go ahead and look at some of the more exciting stuff that is going to be coming. And obviously all of this stuff is in flux, and different things are going to possibly come later. And they even, in some of their wording in this particular post, even makes it seem like it's something that they wanted to include, but not something that's going to be coming out in this next patch or next update. So it looks like there is going to be a large content patch that is coming out more towards the earlier side of autumn, which is going to include a lot more dramatic changes than the patches that they're doing so far. So that's really, really great. It means that we only have maybe 2 months of current state with not huge changes kind of coming in. What are the changes though? Let's just get to it. Combat system. The next big content drop, there's going to be improvements and changes, and they want to improve the feel of the combat. So make more interesting tactics for players, in addition to improving responsiveness and controls, and also focusing on enemy behavior. If you've been staying in tune with the channel recently, we've been doing a lot of dungeon runs, and one of the prevalent kind of tactics that there is to use right now is just body blocking the enemy NPCs that are aggroed onto a tank. They're just going to keep on trying to go to that tank, even if they can't find a direct path to them, rather than just attacking whoever's in front of them. So not engaging at all in terms of combat. And I'm pretty sure with this update, they're going to be changing some enemy behavior. So if they can't path to an enemy, they'll go to the next best thing, or they'll just attack whatever's in front of them while they're trying to path to a new place. Enemy locomotion is something that I think really needs to be worked on in Pax Dei, so I'm looking forward to seeing improvements to that at the next big combat update. But then PvP, something that they mentioned, and they've mentioned a couple of times already, so knights and soldiers are coming. That means we have a knight patch. We have a PvP patch that is going to be coming, most likely in autumn is what it sounds like, and that's going to extend PvP to outside of Lioness, and players are going to be able to opt in through different actions is what it says, but this will change how the world interacts at a intrinsic level that we just haven't seen yet. That is very, very exciting. For what I have read, it sounds like there is potentially a connection between the parish system, which is the religious system in Pax Dei, and Knighthoods, and there's going to be a interaction between those. To me, I feel like I read somewhere that specifically mentioned parishes being able to kind of ordain knights. So the way that a knighthood exists is something it's outside of the clan that you're currently in, and a priest comes in, which is also potentially outside of the clan that you're currently in, and can ordain a player to become a knight. And then that knight can then sire in soldiers to fight for them for their cause. And then wars can break out between different knighthoods. That's, I think, more of the end product. I think we're going to get a very raw starting product this time around. I don't even know if the parish system is going to make it into game. It would be really great if we get that system along with this, but there's no indication that they don't mention the religious system at all. That could be because they're waiting to save that reveal for a new round of publicity and marketing to kind of generate some more interest. But either way, it's great to see that PvP is going to be getting some love in the next major update. They're also going to be adding some social features. And one of the big things that a lot of players have been asking for is like friends lists, the ability to communicate with players who aren't online, and just a more robust communication tool to exist in game, not through the Discords and the various things that we're all using right now. So having any of those social features implemented is going to be great for the community. I particularly would really enjoy being able to send mail or messages to players after the fact. Then for crafting, they're going to be working on making things easier to navigate. So that's a lot of UI updates, and also adding a compendium, which in my opinion, if you say compendium, I think it's going to be something like you press K and it shows you the crafting tree or something that is everything that you need to know for a specific discipline and all the branching off points for stuff. I think that might be what the compendium is. That also could be the first tease for books in game, but that also allows for people to kind of have a better scope of understanding of all the different things that they can craft and their relationship to one another. Then, so for building, this particular subject seems like it's not something that's going to be getting included in the autumn update. This sounds like something that's coming later, but they're going to have an all new extensive set of beams, which are great for creative buildings. I don't know what that possibly could entail, but there were past gray box screenshots of beams, and you can see them on screen right now. That was from a previous update. I think that might be what these beams are, which will possibly allow for better structural stability. We do have a video coming out soon on structural stability, so make sure you subscribe so that you can be notified when that video comes out. But that's really exciting to see that. I know that there were a lot of other pieces that we saw even in the trailer where there was ivy creeping up the walls. That might just be a new stone building tile set, or it's something that you can place on stone. Either way, they do mention that there's going to be all new building tier for stone houses. I hope it's not just for stone houses and that there's also tools that we can use to build bigger structures out of stone, like castles, but any kind of new texture is going to be great for the building community. And then we also have marketplaces. This is going to be a huge one. Marketplaces are going to add currency to the game, and we'll talk about what you can do in order to get currency once we get to the next topic, which is soloable PvE content. But either way, marketplaces are going to allow players who want to focus more on player versus environment to go out there, gather some kind of resource or gold in and of itself, and then translate that into value for other players that they can then use to exchange for goods or services or kits for them to build out their characters. This is going to be really big to have, especially with PvP coming in, because PvP is going to drive a resource economy where players are needing to replenish resources that they lose from things like PvP fights. Then we have soloable PvE content, which I did mention, which is talking about adding a series of PvE sites where it's going to focus on something fun that players can do solo, but also allows them to earn gold. I think these are going to be connected to things like the Stonehenges that are located around the map, or the various eyes, which kind of signify cathedrals or what looks to be religious style things that exist in the world. But any of those points of interest, or possibly even areas that you can loot that have just interesting or fun things to do. We all have seen the Zebian sarcophagi, or whatever you would call them, that are all circled around each other in a pile of sand with some candles sitting around of them, and they're just in the middle of nowhere in the wilderness. Those possibly could have some kind of soloable PvE event or something that you can trigger and start doing. All of this sounds really, really exciting to see how they're going to start injecting all of these other activities for players to get involved in and generate actual value for themselves or their clans. Unreal Engine updates are going to be happening. They're going to be making a transition to Unreal 5.3, and then they're going to start work on upgrading to 5.4. If you're asking me, I think the first wipe is probably going to be somewhere around that 5.4 upgrade. There's a lot of really important changes that come with Unreal 5.4 that are going to increase the visual fidelity of the game, probably increase performance for a lot of players as well. But just based on the changes that I know exist with Unreal 5.4, I feel like it's going to warrant a wipe for them to kind of set everything back to square zero for that new upgraded engine. I don't know how far away that is. It very much so sounds like if they're still working on upgrading to 5.3, that 5.4 is months away at this point. So maybe that means that we don't have any wipes coming in the near future. They still haven't mentioned any for removing all player plots and removing all player progression. So we still have a lot of time, it seems, in the current frame of things. Then there's also a plot permission update that's going to be happening, which is going to be awesome for a lot of players. It's going to give us more granularity to control who has permission to get to specific boxes, add a couple of more tiers of roles into clan management, so you can have officers of different types have access to different types of boxes. It's going to allow a lot of larger groups to actually form and have substance without having to worry about just a random player coming in and taking all their stuff and leaving one day. They're going to be adding a compass. That's going to be great for explorers. I know personally I've spent probably just as much time with my map open walking blindly through the wilderness as I have not. So it's going to be great to have a compass that you can kind of set waypoints. And it also does make sense for a player standpoint to actually be able to have a compass or some way to tell direction and know where you're trying to go, because in reality, just be like, I need to go towards that mountain and go there. But knowing where that mountain is on your map versus where it is in game right now is really hard. So having the ability to set a waypoint and have that waypoint show up on your compass is going to be a really big deal. Then lastly, they do mention localization. They're first probably going to be working on localization for French and German languages, but they're also going to be working on other languages as well. I would imagine Spanish is pretty high up there as well. So be on the lookout for those as they come online too. I am sure there's a lot more that they are working on. This is just a small piece of a large whole. We've all seen the past roadmap that they've mentioned, and of that roadmap, we only have maybe half of what was mentioned on that roadmap. And we also have additional new stuff that was not mentioned on that roadmap that is mentioned here. So I think that does go to support, especially if a lot of this stuff is coming out in autumn, that the roadmap is more of something that's in the near term, and that we're probably going to be getting a more expanded roadmap for additional features to come out in the wintertime, the springtime, and going into summer of next year for the full release or drop out of early access, or at least the current perspective release. All of that being said, that is a lot of new information to kind of share and talk about, but I did mention that we would also talk a little bit about what my thoughts are on the plot cleaning. So we'll head on over to go talk about that now. All right, so just to talk really quickly about the current news about the plot cleansing that is going to happen. I think that Mainframe has done the math already on how many plots this is most likely going to free up. So for anyone who's out there saying, I don't think this is really going to free up anything, I think they've already done the math, and they know that it's going to free up a decent enough amount to warrant the effort. So I wouldn't necessarily worry on that. I think maybe anywhere from 3 to 10% of plots in any particular home valley is going to be freed up for new players to come in using this protocol. I don't know for sure. I haven't been shown any exact numbers, but that's just kind of an eyeball estimate based off of my own observations of current home valleys and their situations. But I think all in all, the rule set for it is pretty straightforward and fair. In fact, you could probably accidentally accomplish this just by logging into the game and doing a couple of tasks on your plot. So it really should be quite almost black and white, showing who actually is playing the game or has at least committed some time, thought, or effort to it, and who just logged in, placed their plot down, and walked away a while after. That being said, that is all that we have to cover for this week's PAX Friday review. If you liked everything that we had to say, please do leave us a like. It helps out the channel. Subscribe so you can get notified whenever we come out with new PAX Day content, and share with any of your friends who might be interested in PAX Day. And before we go, as always, I do also want to thank our channel members. Without you guys and gals, it just would not be as easy to increase the production quality that we have for the channel. So I do really thank all of you for your support as well. And as always, until next time, I'm Altair the Professional Gamer.